Welcome to Bridge Maps with Steve. This is where I share how I organize and what I'm learning about bridge. Today's topic is the law of total tricks, a simple guideline that helps us decide whether to compete and at what level. Your partner bids, the opponents are competing, and you have a fit, but are weak. Do you have a bid? How high should you go? How do you decide? The law of total tricks can help you. The core idea is based on the auction. Once you know you have a fit, you also know at least how many cards your partnership holds in trump. In a competitive auction, instead of relying only on your points, you can count your combined trumps to help you decide whether to compete and at what level. Why use the law of total tricks? The law is a competitive bidding tool where you apply judgment. It's not for basic constructive bidding, such as opening, finding the right strain, inviting a game, or exploring slam. Competing isn't always about making your contract. Sometimes sacrificing and going down can be a better result than your opponents making their contract. Competing also takes away bidding space, making it more difficult for your opponents to find their best contract. The law of total tricks says that the total number of tricks available to both sides is approximately equal to the total number of trumps held by both sides in their respective best fits. Suppose you have a 9-card heart fit and your opponents have a 9-card spade fit. That's 18 total trumps. By the law, we'd expect approximately 18 total tricks. Not winners, obviously. Maybe we could take 9 tricks in hearts and they could take 9 tricks in spades. Or maybe we could take 8 and they could take 10. Either way, the total available is approximately 18. That's the law. And that can be a little confusing. But the law's practical application is much simpler. Why, for example, does 9 cards often justify competing to the 3 level? If we have 9 cards in our trump suit, the opponents only have 4 in our suit. That leaves them 22 cards for their other 3 suits. Those 22 cards can't be divided among 3 suits without the opponents holding at least 8 cards in one of the suits. So, our 9-card fit plus their minimum 8-card fit gives us a total of 17 trumps, and by the law, there are approximately 17 total tricks available. Now, assume our 9-card fit is in spades and their 8-card fit is in hearts. I'll show in a table how the points would break out and how the law of total tricks can be your friend. These are a couple of tables I'll show to give you an idea of the scoring impact of using the law of total tricks. This is a part score contract. So we have 2 possibilities here. Our side having a 9-card, 3-spade contract versus our opponent having a 2-heart contract. So if we make our 3-spade contract, we get 140 points. However, if we let the opponent be the declarer and they make a 2-heart contract, they make 110. So our playing the contract in 3 spades is worth 250 points more, or to our advantage. Now, if we play in a 3-spade contract and we go down 1, not vulnerable, the opponents get 50. But if we let them play, they'd make 110. So it's 60 points better to our advantage to play in the 3-spade contract going down 1. And it's still even better to play in the 3-spade contract going down 1 vulnerable, because we would lose 100. Again, compared to them making 110, it's 10 points to our advantage. Same applies to if we played in the contract 3 spades going down 1 doubled. That would be 100 points to them versus 110 if they made the contract. Again, a 10 point. Now, if we go down 2 not vulnerable, it's still to our advantage by 10 points. Let's look at some risk cases though. If we go down 1 doubled and vulnerable, we would lose 200 points to the opponent because and then if they made their contract, they would make 2 hearts. So it's 90 points to our disadvantage. the moral being, in a three-spade contract, down one doubled vulnerable, it's not to our advantage, so it's riskier. If he went down two vulnerable, same result, not doubled, you would lose 200 versus the opponent making 110 for their two-heart contract. Then also, if we played in the three-spade contract, went down two doubled, it would be very poor for our case. We would lose 300 if not vulnerable, and it would be 190 to our disadvantage. So we don't want to play in a doubled contract. We don't want to be down two doubled, either vulnerable or not vulnerable. So you have to weigh those risks. Here's another example in a game contract. So we have a four-spade contract compared to the opponent's making a three no trump, not vulnerable contract. If we make our four-spade contract not vulnerable, we get 420 points. But if we let them play and they make a three no trump contract, they get 400. The swing there is 820 points to our advantage. If we were vulnerable, it'd be a larger swing to our advantage. We would make 620 versus them making 400, like 1,000 points better to our advantage. So clearly we want to play in a four-spade contract versus let them play in a three no trump contract. Now, if we're doubled in that case, and we play in a four-spade contract, we would make, if we're not vulnerable, we would make 590 versus them playing in the three no trump, 400, still dramatically to our advantage. But let's start to look what happens if we go down. In a four-spade contract, down one, not vulnerable, we lose 50 points. But compared to letting the opponents play and them making three no trump, it's still 350 points to our advantage. And if we're down one and vulnerable, it's still to our advantage by a large margin, 300 points. And we'll keep looking, going down the how it could turn out. If we went down one doubled, not vulnerable, we would lose 100. Vulnerable, we lose 200. Those cases are still to our advantage, as you can see. So in a four-spade contract, we can be doubled, and we can even go down two. If we were down two, not vulnerable, we would lose 100. Vulnerable, 200, still to our advantage. Now, if we're down two and doubled, and not vulnerable, we would lose 300. Compared to the opponents making their contract, making 400, it's still 100 points to our advantage. But finally, we get to down two, doubled, vulnerable, we would lose 500 points. That is 100 points worse off than letting them make their 400 their three no trump contract. So you just have to weigh the risks of, do you think you're going to go down? Are you going to be doubled? Are you vulnerable, not vulnerable? All those considerations need to be taken into account to decide whether to compete and how high to compete. But the law of total tricks can help you with that. This is a map for the law of total tricks. First, its use. It's a guideline for competitive auctions. You would use it after a fit is known, and typically it's valuable with weak, non-constructive hands. As a guideline, what it's telling you is you can generally compete to the level of your fit. If you have an 8-card fit, you could compete to the 2 level. With a 9-card fit, you could compete to the 3 level. And lastly, with a 10-card fit, you could compete to the 4 level. Some things you should factor in before making that decision to compete: your vulnerability, your defensive strength, your suit quality and distribution, your risk of being doubled. That's a big one, especially at the higher levels. If you're at the 4 level, if you compete to the 4 level, the likelihood of getting doubled goes up. If you compete to the 5 level, it's even more likely that you're going to get doubled. Lastly, table awareness. Pay attention to the bidding, but also, do you know your opponents? Have you played with them before? Do you know their style? Are they passive or aggressive? Are they likely to double? Are they experienced and accomplished bridge players? All those things you could take into consideration to factor whether to continue to compete and how high to go. But the law of total tricks is a tool that can help you with those decisions. Here are 3 examples of using the law of total tricks. First, in furthering the preempt. Your partner, the opener, does so with 2 hearts. This shows a weak 2 open holding 6 hearts. Your opponent overcalls in 2 spades in the east, and then you are the south hand and you hold this hand, which has a total of 6 high card points. But you look at the hearts, your partner has 6, you have 3. Should you further the preempt? Again, only 6 high card points. Using the law of total tricks, your partner has 6 and you have 3, so you have a 9 card fit. You, according to the law of total tricks, could compete to the 3 level and you could bid 3 hearts. Now we'll look at a major suit raise. In this case, using the law of total tricks, your partner opens with 1 spade. Then the opponent in the east overcalls 2 diamonds. Now you look at your hand. Do you compete? You only have 4 high card points. Typically that's a pass. However, when looking to compete, if you use the law of total tricks, your partner has at least 5 because they opened in a major. You have 3, so you know you have an 8 card fit. According to the law of total tricks, you could compete to the 2 level and you could bid 2 spades. Here I have our last example where you're applying judgment. In this case, your opponent opens 1 spade, and in the east you hold this hand with 7 clubs but only 8 high card points. You could preempt with 7 clubs with a 3 club bid. The other opponent in the south shows a fit for their partner going to 3 spades. Now in the west, all right, your partner in the east had preempted. You hold only 9 high card points, but do you further this preempt? Using the law of total tricks, your partner showed 7 and you have 4. You actually have an 11 card fit. Can you compete? How high do you compete? Well, this is step 1 where you could apply judgment. Do you bid 4 or 5 clubs? The 11 card fit is saying you could possibly go to 5, but if you're a little conservative, let's say you do bid 4 clubs. Well, the competition in north goes to 4 spades. So they're looking at a 4 spade game contract. Now in the east, what do you do now? Do you bid 5 clubs? Do you continue to compete? Now, your partner knows it's an 11 card fit, but you don't. As far as you know, it's a 10 card fit. With some things to consider. Again, vulnerability, favorable, unfavorable, defensive strength, suit quality and distribution, likelihood of being doubled, and table awareness. You have to decide. The law of total tricks doesn't make that decision for you. You need to apply judgment and decide whether to continue to compete. You're looking at either letting your opponent play in a 4 spade contract, or you play in a 5 club contract, possibly going down. So that's where the law of total tricks can help you, but it doesn't give you the answer. Use the law of total tricks in a competitive auction once you've found a fit. You could count your combined trump and possibly compete to the level of your fit. The law is a guideline, not a guarantee. Sometimes it doesn't work. Don't force it. Let your hand fit the law. Don't try to make the law fit your hand. Be willing to compete even when your points are low. When you have a fit, count your trumps and use the law of total tricks to give you the confidence to compete. Sometimes your points say pass, but sometimes the law says bid. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. See you next time.